From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. Andrew with you once again. I'm joined as always by my co-host Derek, aka D4 3. Derek, we felt that it was time to do a heartfully check-in on what we've been doing with basketball gaming, so please, tip us off.
Yeah, today's episode is centered around basketball gaming in 2026. We will be discussing the games and modes we have been playing, also how we are playing and who we are playing with. Andrew, we are coming up on halfway through the year, which is pretty hard to believe. I figured this would be a fitting and fun topic. But I wanted to start off the show with an awesome gaming experience that actually took place today. 5-player co-op on NBA Live 95 for the Super Nintendo, followed by 4 user-controlled players going head-to-head on NBA Hangtime, also for Super Nintendo. I mean, how cool was this? I hosted, and we used the SNES 9X emulator to play the game and Parsec to connect. It worked amazing for all players involved, and we got to do this more often.
This has been my pitch for a while now. 5-player NBA Live 95 for Super Nintendo. We made it happen. As always, you were a strong host. Everyone had a great connection. Even my connection wasn't too bad this time around, and that's not on you, of course. That's on my connection here in Australia. But we all had a superb connection. No lag, basically. Way better than 2K Pro-Am and the Rec, compared to 2K Online. And of course, not having to play with a My Player. And playing with My Players can be fun, Derek, but these days there's so much metagaming, OP builds, all of that nonsense. We're playing with 1994 rosters, a golden age in the NBA. I'm not going to be diplomatic or shy about it anymore, Derek. A golden era in the NBA, fantastic players. It was a blast to play with them. All of us controlling a player. There's an initial feeling out process, as there always is when you're playing with 5 people for the first time. Of course, there's no split screen either. Some of us off the screen at different times, so we had to get used to that. I think we adjusted very well after that first quarter anyway, and we'll get into that in a moment, I'm sure. But the chemistry was there after that second quarter, or beginning with that second quarter, I should say. And it just all came together. Great teamwork, great highlights, an absolute blast.
Yeah, online gaming without the meta, without the toxicity, without any, system issues. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, for the NBA Live 95 game, we controlled the Supersonics versus the CPU Warriors. I was locked on the center, so either Michael Cage or Sam Perkins. Wizcard Rush on the power forward, Sean Kemp. You on the small forward, Detlef Schrempf. Kid Cash on the shooting guard, Kendall Gill or Ricky Pierce. Or if you decided to sub him in, maybe Nate McMillan. And King Kong Fresh 00 on the point guard, who used Gary Payton for the full game. We won. And there was a top 10 worthy play that came out of it. A snatch block by me using Sam Perkins on one end, an outlet, and a dish to you who was using Detlef Schrempf for the layup. But yeah, tough first quarter. I think we were down 32-18. Chris Webber throwing it down on us. Tim Hardaway and Latrell Sprewell knocking down threes, including one at the end of the first quarter to beat the buzzer. You had Chris Mullin hitting shots in the mid-range. It was looking pretty bleak. But once we kind of got reaccustomed to the game and we learned how to play together, everybody was touching the ball. And at the end of the game, all of us were in the double figures. I believe I led the team in scoring with Sam Perkins, who I ended up subbing in the second quarter because I was like, you know what, I want a little bit more versatility out here. And I know how NBA Live 95 works, Andrew. I'm going to be able to hit a bunch of threes with Sam Perkins, right? So I get Sam Perkins in there and hit a bunch of threes. I think I hit 6 or 7. I was still able to attack the rim, block shots, make some good passes, etc. But you had around 20 points with Schrempf. And yeah, Kid Cash was lighting it up with Ricky Pierce. Some smart play by King Kong Fresh with Gary Payton. You threw an alley-oop to Sean Kemp being controlled by Wizcard Rush. And Kemp threw it down and did the whole pointing animation, which we obviously love, Andrew. And yeah, we ended up winning that game. But yeah, once the first quarter ended and we figured it out, I was having a blast and I didn't want to stop playing. How cool was that?
Oh, we were all having a blast in our chat, reacting to all the great plays, saying how fun it was. And when we got that chemistry together in the second quarter, started competing, just had that huge comeback to take the lead by halftime and then never trailed again. we were in control from that point on. So satisfying. That's how it is with online team play. So I'm definitely up for more games of this. I didn't have a multi-tap with my Super Nintendo back in the day, Derek, so this is my first time playing with even just 4 players on NBA Live 95 for Super Nintendo. 5 players was even more special, again, reminding me so much of some of the best sessions of 2K Pro-Am in NBA 2K16, NBA 2K17. So, yeah, definitely up for more sessions of this. And again, different teams. I believe NBA Live 96 also supports it, so we can try Live 96 with the 96 season rosters. You know, obviously love the 1994 rosters in NBA Live 95 for Super Nintendo, but we can create Michael Jordan, we can create legends, as you well know, in that version of NBA Live 96. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And people might ask why the Super Nintendo version. A lot of people did play NBA Live on Sega Genesis back in the day. A lot of people felt that was the superior version. But Derek, only a maximum of 4 players on Genesis. So Nintendo did something that Genesis didn't, in this case, if you will.
Yeah, and how great is the technology today? You know, what we have at our fingertips. You know, we have 5 users connecting from all different parts of the world, right? And we're using an emulator. So it is still the Super Nintendo version, but we can upscale it if we want. We can, stretch the image or make it widescreen, etc. And all 5 of us can connect over Parsec and just get lost in that moment. It was like having 5 people in the same room sitting next to each other. That's how good it worked. You just can't beat it. But I want to get to the second experience that we had with this. So we played NBA Hang Time once again for Super Nintendo. This is in contention for me as the best arcade NBA game ever made. The Super Nintendo version, in my opinion, competes with the PlayStation version. I think it is that strong of a game. I put NBA Hang Time right up there with NBA Jam on Fire Edition as far as having fun with it, as far as the overall feel of the game. But we played 2 games, Blazers versus Celtics and Lakers versus Supersonics. The Blazers versus Celtics game was really interesting because you and Kid Cash were controlling Dana Barros and D Brown, so obviously guards that can shoot. And then Blazers, we had more size. We had the bigger Isaiah Ryder and Cliff Robinson. So it was, on one end, you guys were firing away from 3, Dana Barros taking most of them. On the other end, me and King Kong Fresh, who was my teammate, we were jumping for oops. We're attacking the rim. And it was just a tale of 2 different styles, and I thought that was really neat. We ended up pulling away with a win there. But I did want to point out something frustrating with NBA Hang Time for Super Nintendo, and I know you were feeling it all the way in Australia, Andrew. The fact that I couldn't dunk with Isaiah Ryder. He would not dunk. Not off oops, not, charging towards the rim. And then I was like, you know what? Let's bring in RV to Sabonis. He's 7'3". He's got to be able to dunk in the game. Sabonis can't dunk at all. And Sabonis, I couldn't hit a 3 with either. And as you know, he could stretch the floor. So, little frustrating. Obviously, Cliff Robinson, Kid Kong Fresh was able to throw it down with him, was able to hit some 3s with him, and we were able to pull out that win. But very strange that I couldn't throw it down with them. Then in the next game, Lakers versus Supersonics. Once again, Supersonics, they have to be thrown on the floor, Andrew. But it was me controlling Nick Van Exel, King Kong Fresh controlling Sadale Threet, and I subbed in Eddie Jones for him in the second half so he could throw it down a little bit more and just have a more complete game. But I got to tell you something. I was throwing it down constantly with Nick Van Exel, and he only has 1 bar on his dunk. So that's some pretty questionable programming there for NBA Hang Time for Super Nintendo. I was hitting 3s constantly with Van Exel. I was swatting shots out of the air. I was throwing it down. Felt great using him. We ended up pulling out that win as well. You were on Kemp in that game. Gary Payton was being controlled by Kid Cash. That game ended up being a thriller, Andrew, because me and King Kong Fresh were up big. And then Kid Cash caught fire with Gary Payton. I believe you guys erased like a 12 or 14 point deficit and took the lead with around 30 seconds left. Game ended up going right down to the wire. We were tied. You got a good look at the hoop with Sean Kemp for free to win the game. You missed it. We go into overtime, and then we end up pulling out the win. But that game is just so epic. It's just as fun to play defense as offense, which is the mark of a great basketball video game. The teams, the rosters, they are legendary. They're so classic. And I just love that game, and those sessions were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've got to really tip my hat to Kid Cash carrying the team with that comeback. The way he was just getting those steals, hit those 3 threes with Gary Payton to catch fire, and then bringing us right back into the game to push us into overtime. Yeah, a really thrilling session. And that is a really solid port. I grew up playing the Nintendo 64 version of NBA Hang Time. I think that's a pretty good home port. Certainly better from a graphical standpoint, audio standpoint, compared to Super Nintendo, 64-bit versus 16-bit, obviously. But a very strong port for the most part on Super Nintendo. That dunk issue is weird, though. And I couldn't dunk with D. Brown, which I know also must have frustrated you as much as you were going up against D. Brown in this game. You know, D. Brown's ratings were a bit lower at this point, obviously, compared to NBA Jam Tournament Edition, didn't have quite as high a dunk rating in this game, but still should have been able to dunk a bit more often, like Isaiah Ryder. And of course it is an arcade game. But as you recall, we did have that session playing with the Rockets, and I just couldn't get a dunk with Akeem Olajuwon in that session we played probably at least a couple of years ago now. So I think there is a bit of an issue with dunking in the Super Nintendo version. That aside, though, a very strong port. You've got the leaners along the baseline, you've got the fadeaways, you've got all the animations. Pretty good arcade port, graphically speaking, you know, and the gameplay is there as well. So, yeah, a lot of fun. You just pulled away in the overtime. Spectacular play in the overtime period. But yeah, just like 5-player NBA Live 95, pretty keen for some more hangtime sessions as well.
Yeah, I love playing defense in NBA Hangtime. I love the way the pushing system works, swiping for steals, you know, going up and swatting shots. It is so rewarding. I would be absolutely open to playing that game more in 2026. So yeah, let's talk about what else we are playing, and then we'll get to the community responses to this week's community question, which is, what have you been playing for basketball video games in 2026? With also a bonus question of what non-basketball video games have you been playing? But I'll start this off, Andrew. We finished our Legends season and playoffs on NBA 2K26. All 82 games, 12-minute quarters on Hall of Fame. A lot of great stats and highlights came out of it. Again, this is where we place retired legends against the current NBA. Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Shaq, Kobe, Julius Erving, Clyde Drexler, etc. But we play the entire season co-op, my brother and I, and it's just a great way to laugh and have a good time and beat up on the computer and just make some great highlights for the top 10, etc. It never gets old, and we do it with every game as long as the gameplay is strong enough to suit it.
Yeah, it's been a staple for you guys for so long. You know, going back to NBA Live 96, obviously, on Genesis, unlocking those hidden legends and playing through seasons. And for years now, you've also been sharing highlights from those seasons. We've already seen some great highlights from your NBA 2K26 season. Really cool that you finished it. It's always so satisfying to play through a full season. 12-minute quarters, Derek. There's no other way to do it for us simheads. It just feels right to play the full games. To play every game, full 12-minute quarters, no simulating, making all those memories, getting those highlights, accumulating the stats, seeing the stats build up over the course of the season. Yeah, just so satisfying.
Yeah, it doesn't get old. And, you know, being able to share that experience with my brother is key to all of it, because I would never do one of these seasons without him. I love that shared experience. I love the fact that we can talk about it, that we can look at the stats after and just have all the laughs about it. So, yeah, it doesn't get old. But what about you? What's the first game that you want to mention?
Well, I will bring up NBA Live 19, which I played the other day. And I talked about that before, whether or not I'd put it aside once Ultimate Team was no longer available, which it obviously isn't because the servers are gone now as of January this year, if I recall correctly. They're certainly gone now, no Ultimate Team anyway. I did wonder if I would pick it up. And I have. I've gone back and played some of the Streets World Tour, hitting Rucker Park, trying to get the between legs alley-oop to stretch. That's been a lot of fun. But the other day, I played a game with a minimalist 2026 roster update, New York Knicks versus Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, as we're recording this, the Knicks have just eliminated the 76ers with another blowout, a 30-point blowout, Derek. So it felt topical. It felt relevant to play that matchup. Those two teams have enough players that are in NBA Live 19 to have viable lineups on the floor. So that was fun to play. Had a really satisfying highlight with Josh Hart actually crossing over, going up, adjusting midair, almost doing the Michael Jordan twist and flip over the head with Josh Hart. I'm sure you can remember the one I'm talking about, Derek. But yeah, NBA Live 19, it no longer has the draw of Ultimate Team, obviously the only place you can play with Legends, and I've been loving playing with Legends and Classic teams the last couple of years, as you know, Derek. But yeah, that was fun to inject a little bit of modern day into a game that I've really come to enjoy.
You keep going back to these games that you were kind of sour on when they were the current release, and you get some reward out of it, right? It's the same thing happened with NBA 2K14.
Absolutely.
Right? You had issues with it for reasons that you've mentioned on past episodes. You've talked about it in the forums as well. But, you went back to NBA 2K14 and you spent countless hours on it, getting into almost season 7 of my career. And then now NBA Live 19, I know you weren't fond of it when it was the current release, didn't spend a ton of time with it. And then, you decided to revisit it years later and you were like, hey, you know what? This has a lot of NBA Live 18 boons. And you were fond of NBA Live 18 and, then you were able to get some fun out of it. So I love the fact that you do that and you give games a second chance. And I do the same.
It's important because there are times when you do come in with a bit of a sour attitude or expectations that it doesn't meet, but it's still a pretty solid game if you're willing to give it a chance. And NBA Live 19 wasn't everything that I wanted it to be, not everything that it needed to be, but it did turn out to be better than I thought it was. So yeah, absolutely enjoyed having the run in Ultimate Team with it, and now finding other ways to enjoy it as well. NBA Live 18 is a lot better as far as custom rosters, though. I do actually have a couple of games that I want to get the highlights from and put them up on our YouTube channel. I actually managed to replay the 2012 NBA Finals, Heat versus Thunder, a matchup from the 2010 season. Again, I think Thunder versus Magic. So I've been able to have some makeshift classic teams. I know how much I enjoy doing that, Derek. It's a bit harder, obviously, in Live 18 because the Legends are in Ultimate Team, which is no longer available, obviously, just like NBA Live 19. So you're kind of limited as far as going way back. But you can create some older season matchups from the 2010s. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. I really enjoy minimalist modding in that way, finding what I can do with those rosters. But NBA Live 18 doesn't have some of the roster editing bugs that NBA Live 19 does. NBA Live 19 has a couple of nasty bugs where if you create players, they end up losing their attributes, losing their appearance. So I don't really want to spend the time creating missing players to do a full 2026 update, Derek. Also, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it in a game that I really, really like. I do enjoy Live 19. There are games that I enjoy more that I would be more inclined to do a current season update on. But even so, I'd rather make a classic teams roster or a retro roster, as you know. But yeah, with NBA Live 19, because of those bugs, don't want to put too much effort into a custom roster. But again, there's enough players still in the league on some of the teams to have viable lineups. So yeah, that's kind of fun to do. Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So the next experience I'll mention is we started a WNBA season on NBA 2K26 this year, and we are 31 games in with a record of 24-7. And this is 3-player co-op. It's me locked on Paige Beckers, and on the bench I have Haley Van Lith. My brother Nick is locked on Brittany Griner, and my brother Mark is using the rest of the players, and he picked some of his favorites like Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and whatnot. But it's really fun, 3-player co-op. It's competitive. We're playing on the hardest level. So, like I stated, we have 7 losses. But I actually play point guard with Beckers, and my brother Mark usually plays off ball because I'm better at playing point guard in the game. But I think I'm averaging around 27 points per game, 10 assists per game, and 2 steals per game with Beckers at this point. Caitlin Clark averaging around 24 points per game on 43% 3-point shooting. My brother Nick locked on Griner. She's averaging 20 points per game and around 30 rebounds per game, Andrew, because rebounding with big men, or in this case, tall women, is pretty dominating in this game compared to 2K25. It's a lot easier to get rebounds with centers and power forwards, and they usually take up most of the rebounds in this game. But yeah, we're having a blast with that. We did the same thing with NBA 2K25, finished a whole season and playoffs. And yeah, like I stated, the highlights, the laughs. This one's more competitive, so, we really got to focus or we're going to lose some games. And it is kind of a rigged draft, I'm not going to lie. So because we wanted to be able to have Beckers and Clark on the same team, we did do a draft day trade. So we did rig it, I'm not going to lie. So that draft day trade makes us, a little bit unfair, which is probably why we have such a good winning record. But hey, you know what? We wanted to have the players that we wanted, so we rigged the draft. But it's been a lot of fun.
And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, right? I mean, as long as you're having fun, as long as it doesn't feel like you're so stacked that it gets boring. That has happened to me in franchise games before, where I've acquired too many good players and I've actually had to redistribute them around the league a little bit because I felt that my team was too powerful, that I was struggling to give players minutes and get them shots. So as long as you're not feeling that kind of frustration or boredom with your squad, that's the main thing. And I've kind of underutilized the WNBA content in both NBA Live and NBA 2K. I actually did play a WNBA Play Now game in NBA Live 18 the other day. Sent you a highlight of a dunk by Brittany Griner. Throughout the game, I was trying to get her to dunk, and at long last, in the final minute, did manage to throw down with her on a post-up. But yeah, it does change up the game, obviously. It is refreshing to play with these other teams, much like classic teams, all-time teams, etc. So I know you and your brothers have done that the last couple of years as well, and had a blast. And it's funny because I'm kind of seeking that season experience, or that franchise experience myself at the moment, trying to decide which game to play a franchise in, dedicate myself to a season in. I'm sure I'll make a decision by the end of the year, Derek. You brought up NBA 2K14 in my 7th year of my career. I've actually not played that for months. That's been on the shelf, which is kind of surprising. But at the same time, I did sink a lot of hours into that beginning in 2021, getting to the 7th year, and that has been a fantastic ride, don't get me wrong, but I did feel like it was time to take a break. But at the same time, I'm almost ready to pick it up again, so that might be my season that I play in between everything else. Because I've really been enjoying just playing random matchups in games that tickle my fancy, basically, Derek. And I love the minimalist modding, as I said, putting together makeshift classic teams. I've been drawn back to NBA 2K6 a fair bit, Derek. And even though it doesn't have the right stick dribbling, I really feel I can make the dribbling controls work. I enjoy the feel of NBA 2K6. And I have a lot of nostalgia for the 2006 season. Obviously, I do enjoy those rosters, but the legends, I keep getting drawn back to the legends, Derek. And in particular with NBA 2K6, Charles Barkley. Because anytime you have an official appearance of Charles Barkley in a video game, and people might say, you can play many NBA 2K games or NBA Live games with roster mods, that add Charles Barkley, complete with a cyberface. It looks pretty authentic. And that's true, and I'll absolutely do that as well. But the fact that it's such a rare appearance, a rare official appearance by Charles Barkley in NBA 2K6, I can't help throwing the 90s West on the floor, or the 80s East, or the all-time 76ers, playing with authentic virtual Chuck. There's a huge draw to that for me.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And then NBA 2K6 is another game, too, that, you were a big live head back in the day. a live fanboy, you even stated.
Absolutely.
And you're playing NBA Live '06 at that time, and and the past lives as well. And you didn't give 2K6 a chance. And then years and years and years later, you were like, you know what, I'll throw this on and, I'll give it a try. And you played it and you were like, I really like this game. I got to keep coming back for more. And you kept putting it on and you shared some highlights and, you did a dunk reel with Charles Barkley. And yeah, it's another game that you decided to say, hey, I'll pick this up again and give it another whirl. And yeah, you like it now. So I love to see that.
And in a similar vein, NBA 2K17, which I played a ton of, obviously, playing my career, 2K Pro-Am as well, 500 games of 2K Pro-Am, but not as much with the classic teams and the regular NBA rosters. So it's been great to go back and just play the traditional 5-on-5, non-player locked gameplay, especially with the assortment of classic teams. But in particular, I've been drawn to the all-time college DLC, because it's so unique, basically. And that means that I have been playing it on my PS4, because I did get the DLC on PS4. It was not released officially on PC, however the players and teams are actually there. In fact, Carolus has unlocked them when I brought it up in our Discord, has actually unlocked them in a roster, shared that roster in the forum. I'm going to have to check that out, Derek. I'm going to have to get those teams on PC as well.
Yeah, I love when you share highlights from that DLC. WizCard Rush is doing the same thing. I just think the floors stand out, the jerseys, the graphics in general. I love the look of it. You mentioned getting back into franchise gaming. We do have our NBA 2K9 Bulls season,
True.
Which we've taken a break from. But I believe our last game that we played was back in March or early April. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. We're 20 games in, and the highlights look great there. So that's part of my 2026 gaming. The next thing for me, actually, NBA 2K11 for PS2, Andrew. I've been kind of obsessed with this game over the last couple of weeks, and you and I connected on it and put up highlights on the NLSC YouTube and shared them on Twitter. And yeah, this game is better than I expected. I mean, it has two glaring flaws. Layups, most of the time miss. It doesn't matter who you're using. So layups are kind of broken in the game. And the game also has an issue with fouling. Fouls happen way too often. You can turn the sliders all the way to 1, like down from 50 to 1, and it's just constant fouls at the rim and on jump shots. So those are the two glaring flaws with the game, but we're still having a blast. Enough so that my brother and I started a 2000s All-Star season versus the CPU. Right now we're 8 games in, 12-minute quarters on Hall of Fame. But yeah, we put Wade, T-Mac, Kobe, Shaq, Duncan, Dirk, Allen Iverson, Dwight Howard, etc., all on the same team. And we're taking on the regular NBA teams, and once again putting up stats, making great highlights, etc. And the gameplay is just a lot of fun. That game also has a great selection of camera views. The other thing that we're playing, once again, Shaq and T-Mac, we have NBA 2K19. We are about 60 games in to this season, 12-minute quarters, again on Hall of Fame. And this is where we did a fantasy draft, like an all-time fantasy draft, and I'm locked on Shaq, and my brother's using the rest of the players, and he has T-Mac, Peja Stojakovic, Steve Francis, etc. And again, stats and highlights and just a lot of fun. We actually do have some losses on that season. I want to say we have 4, so I think we're 56-4, something like that. And then also NBA Live 2000 for the PC. Another legend season. We're roughly 60 games in, 12-minute quarters, superstar difficulty. And yeah, it's the Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson team. And NBA Live 2000 gameplay stands the test of time. It's still a lot of fun. Love the spin moves, the crossovers. I like the shooting overall in that game. I love attacking the rim. Playing defense is rewarding. We've talked about that before. Getting steals is rewarding. Getting blocks. We love NBA Live 2000. So that's also been in my rotation. And then otherwise, Andrew, we've just been spending time jumping on different games for fun. Well, you and I, jumping on like NBA Starting 5 2005, played a couple games of NBA Live 10 and connected with Josh Smith on multiple alley-oops, which is pretty rare for that game, but I'm figuring out how to throw them. So it's been pretty rewarding mastering that. And yeah, it's just fun throwing on all the different games every now and then and having a quick, awesome experience.
Yeah, NBA Live 10 continues to be this reliable standby for us. You know, the first game we connected on with Parsec, or one of the first anyway, and it got me back into playing it solo on my Xbox 360. So yeah, NBA Live 10, very special to us, obviously. If we can find out a way to mod that, to get some classic teams in there, to get some legends, to get MJ in there with a face and whatnot, yeah, I can see us playing that even more often, you know, having something regular going with NBA Live 10. But you did bring up our NBA 2K9 association, and we absolutely need to get back into that as well. But I'm not surprised that you got into NBA 2K11 for PlayStation 2, because when you go back and revisit a game like that, and it captures your imagination, you got to ride out that retro kick. You got to see it through to the end until you're ready to put it down again. But like you, I've been revisiting these different games. Obviously, we've been doing that for the podcast. NBA Live 96 for PlayStation, NBA Starting 5 2005, as you said. I recently got into NBA Shootout 97, played some games of that to cover that for Way Back Wednesday. I would still put NBA Live 97 ahead of it, but that's definitely an interesting game. Definitely had some fun with that. But yeah, in lieu of playing through a solo season, I have just been revisiting whatever games capture my imagination at any given time, either solo or with you. I did play a game of NBA Live 06 PC. I do want to bring that back into the rotation this year. That is one of the games I want to play more often. I am planning on dusting off my Bulls dynasty that's in year 3, continuing that. But I actually played a game a couple of weeks ago with my work-in-progress ABA roster. Need to put some more work into that, get that done, because I've been able to make a fair bit of progress already with that mod, and there's a lot of assets that I can use to have that mod come together fairly quickly. I also uploaded the highlights from that session to our YouTube channel, but I am really obsessed with history and playing with the legends and classic teams, as you know, Derek, and the ABA at the moment, I need to check out that documentary, Soul Power, and a couple of other ABA documentaries that are out there. Because obviously, Derek, the ABA is from before our time, but such an important part of basketball history, one that isn't given enough attention, I think. So, yeah, kind of obsessed with that at the moment.
Yeah, well, look at my gaming habits. How often are classic players involved? Classic rosters, legends, etc. I see it. Like, I get it. And yeah, I've had on and off obsessions with the ABA. You've seen me post about it on Twitter at times, talking about the great players that played in the ABA that also had great careers in the NBA. You know, the amount of players that came over when the merger took place and how many were all-stars in that first season, how it reshaped the NBA and brought so many awesome players and teams to it. So yeah, I will never frown on somebody's obsession with the ABA. I also want to point out that I've also been putting on NBA Live 06 periodically, the PC version, as well as NBA Live 2005 for PC, and that's been a lot of fun. It's also worth mentioning that NBA The Run has been part of my gaming in 2026, the new game by Play by Play Studios. I took part in the closed beta, which we talked about recently on the show. There's going to be another playtest next weekend, and I plan on taking part in that as well. Hopefully I love the game. Hopefully it becomes a big part of my 2026 gaming habits.
And yeah, Play by Play Studios actually put out a blog in the wake of the first closed beta, thanking everybody for taking part, thanking everybody for their feedback. It sounds like they've really taken that feedback on board, and they're looking to make some changes before the game comes out.
Yeah, good stuff. The playtests are great. The developers are obviously listening, and I think they are going to make awesome improvements. So I'm looking forward to that. I also want to point out, before we get to the community's responses to this week's community question, that the NBA Live 95 gameplay video, 5-player cooperative play, is up on the NLSC YouTube, so please check that out, as well as the NBA Hang Time game, Lakers versus Supersonics, 4 players connected head-to-head. So let's get to this week's community question. I asked basketball gamers what basketball video games have occupied your time this year, and what non-basketball games have you been playing? T Gentry at Bucky_T states, been playing a lot of NBA Live 09 lately. Looking back, there was so much authenticity with the players in this game, how they shoot and everything, but of course always playing NBA 2K9 through NBA 2K16, trying to find out how to get better and clearer graphics when playing my PS1 and PS2. They look fuzzy. But yeah, NBA Live 09, Andrew, we played it recently. and we had a lot of fun on it. I will say that I overlooked it back when it was the new game. This is kind of like a U scenario, right? Where the PS3 version of NBA Live '09, I kind of, put it on the shelf, didn't spend much time with it. And then revisiting it years later, I was like, you know what? This game has some decent bones. I see what they were trying to do. It's a big improvement over NBA Live '08. So yeah, I enjoy that game more today.
Yeah, I'm actually in a similar boat there. I was still very focused on the PC at that time, updating the rosters for the last couple of NBA Live games on PC, wishing that NBA Live 09 was on PC, feeling very disappointed that it wasn't. And that was a big issue in our community, obviously. I think a lot of people made that switch to 2K that year, or certainly tried to, with NBA 2K9 coming to PC. I didn't get into 2K9 until years later, once again going back and giving these games a second chance. So worth it. But yeah, NBA Live 09, going back and playing it solo and with you, yeah, I too have developed more of an appreciation for that game. I think I still enjoy NBA Live 10 a bit more on the sticks, a bit smoother, the animation's a bit better. But Live 09, we have definitely had a blast with that. That's another standby in our rotation, Derek.
Garva at Garva_23 states 2K14 tops the list as usual. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. The story is engaging and brilliant. I mean, I love stories, the stories that build up into something. Likewise, 2K, the season mods, where I create my own universe. But yeah, 2K14, I know that he's playing the PC version. He's constantly in the NLSC top 10 plays of the week. I know that he's using some mods as well, including animation mods, where, there's adjustments to things like behind the back passing, different looking full court shots, different looking dunks, etc. He's using presentation mods. He's all over the mods. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, 2K14 PC is definitely an NLSC community favorite, and it's one of my favorite games of all time.
And I believe he mentioned on X that he's using Sashiro's animation mod. So that's why you see some of those behind-the-back alley-oops and some of the different between-the-legs dunks. Yeah, producing some very unique highlights for the top 10 with his MJ this past week, obviously. So yeah, good stuff.
Cortez at Hey Yo Court states NBA Live 2004 and NBA 2K on the Dreamcast. And that's another thing that I keep putting on from time to time. If I have a few minutes, I will throw on the Demule Dreamcast emulator, and I'll throw on the original NBA 2K. And usually it's the Kings I throw on the floor, Andrew, because I love that Jason Williams-led Kings team with Chris Webber and Peja and Turkoglu, etc. And yeah, it's great just to put it on from time to time. I love the look of it. I love what they were trying to do. I love that it's technically the original 2K, even though NBA Action 98 and NBA Fast Break 98 were visual concepts games. The original NBA 2K on Sega Dreamcast, it holds a special place with me. We spent a ton of time on it when it was the current game, when it first came out.
And we can still call it the first NBA 2K, much as NBA Live 95 is the first NBA Live, though it has that lineage with the NBA Playoff Series. Kind of a reboot, if you will. But yeah, I haven't played much of that first NBA 2K. I didn't have the Dreamcast back in the day. I still prefer NBA Live 2000, I will put it out there, but it has been interesting to revisit with you playing NBA 2K. And as you alluded to, Derek, the rosters. That's so important when revisiting these games, when choosing which game to revisit. We revisited NBA Live 16, probably last year or maybe the year before. It's been a while now. And it was fun, obviously. But we talked about before that we had trouble picking a team. There were some fun lineups in the NBA that year, but nothing really jumped out to us like other years. And, we'd also revisited NBA Live 15 not too long before that, and we were able to find teams we wanted to play with, and NBA 2K14, and other games from around that era. But it just felt like 2016, we had trouble picking a lineup that really jumped out to us. So the lineups of any given season, the unique rosters, the fun teams to play with, the great video game teams, yeah, that really is a factor with retro basketball gaming.
Yeah, I never have a problem finding teams that I want to use if I'm using 80s, 90s, or 2000s rosters, right? It's usually when I get into the late 2010s and 2020s when it kind of gets a little blah for me. But you talk about a game like NBA 2K, which is going to be late 90s, early 2000s players, right? that's gold for me. I can easily find teams to put on the floor that I want to use or play against, etc. And like I stated, same with 90s and 80s. So did we receive any responses on Facebook?
Yes, we did have a couple of people weigh in on Facebook as well. Ricky says, I've gone back a few generations these past few months since getting an Xbox 360. I usually play my leagues on NBA 2K16, 17, 19, and on and off with NBA 2K14 my career. But since buying a 360, NBA 2K13 is my main game, playing in association with the Hawks, a few games here and there on 2K9, 11, and 12. I think the main factor besides them being really good is the ability to use right-stick dribbling. I like the button pushing for moves on older games, but right-stick is so much better. Also mentions he's been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, says bloated and a big mistake but wanted to finish it, Far Cry 5, Witcher 3, and DayZ. So yeah, definitely got some variety there. I think that's a great generation of games to revisit, the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 versions of NBA 2K. Although obviously, the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC ports, some very strong releases there. To me, NBA 2K17, still a contender for the best game in the NBA 2K series. Certainly my favourite. But yeah, I love that he's gone back to NBA 2K13. That is also a favourite of mine. The right-stick dribbling is huge. You know, we've talked about that before. And yeah, once again, playing in association with those older rosters that you have nostalgia for, yeah, that's a ton of fun.
Yeah, NBA 2K13 doesn't get old for me. Every time I put it on, I have fun. You can make great highlights in that game. It's just really well made, and it has the right stick triple threat and right stick dribbling. It's awesome. As far as non-basketball games that I've been playing, I like some of his choices. In 2026, my brother and I replayed through the original Remnant game, so Remnant from the Ashes, Games of Blast. We beat Neo, and we are on to Neo 2, and we've put over 120 hours into that, and we're almost done the DLC, and then we're going to move on to Neo 3. We've also been doing a few fights on Monster Hunter World and are deep into Monster Hunter Wilds, and we're also playing a game that used to be an MMO, but it was a failed MMO that changed into a co-op game. It's called Wayfinder, and it's way better as a co-op game. So we've been playing that, and we have about 60 hours into that one. So those have been the primary choices for non-basketball games for us.
And it is important, I think, to break up your gaming. I mean, if all you want to play is basketball video games, that's absolutely fine. You know, we obviously love basketball video games, but I do think it is important to break it up and to enjoy other genres. I've got a game of Fallout 3 going, starting over from the beginning, always seeking that perfect playthrough, if you will. I've also decided not to fast travel in this particular playthrough, and that really does change things up, Derek. There's some quests that really do involve a lot of back and forth, and fast travel makes them a lot more convenient, but without it, more traveling through the wasteland, more dangerous. So that's been different to not use fast travel. You know, obviously with fast travel, you do need to do the exploration first and find those locations before you can fast travel to them. But once you do, you don't realize how reliant you become on fast travel. So yeah, it's been interesting to change it up and, you know, really play the game and not take those shortcuts. Joe says, this page, the NLSC Facebook page, has gotten me back into NBA Live 2004 to particularly play its Dynasty mode. Of course, the first year of Dynasty, revamped franchise mode, Derek, NBA Live 2004, another classic. I do want to get that working properly on PC, though, so that I can use my 96 season mod.
Yeah, same here. It doesn't work perfect on my PC, and it has nothing to do with Windows 11. It was doing the same thing on Windows 10, so I think it just needs some troubleshooting. But yeah, NBA Live 2004 doesn't get old. Works perfect on the PS2 emulator, and I've connected with one of the Live 01 legends on that, with Nate. I've connected with you on it many times. I've played seasons with my brothers. Yeah, Live 2004, such a classic. And yeah, we put that on from time to time.
Benjamin says, Hoopland is pretty fun. I have it for mobile and PC. I play a lot of 2K12 and occasionally go back to Live 98 on my PS1 emulator. Non-basketball stuff, I spend most of my time playing BeamNG Drive on PC. I make vintage monster truck videos for a group called Beam Motorsports for our YouTube page. So, not familiar with that one, but that sounds really fun to do. You know, we can attest to how much fun recording our gameplay is and sharing those highlights with other people. So yeah, good stuff there. Live 98, obviously a classic. But yeah, nice to see some support for Hoopland here, Derek.
Yeah, Hoopland is really intriguing, and I'm waiting for some mods to come out for it for the PC version, and my brother and I will probably start spending some serious time with that game. But yeah, the developer is awesome. I've had some conversations with him. Definitely a passion project, and the stuff that he did with that game is unbelievable for the type of game that it is. It's, an ode to, I would say, probably the 16-bit era. It looks like a Super NES game, but the gameplay is incredibly deep with crossovers, dip dunks, alley-oops, all of that stuff. You can create your own teams. I believe you can create your own league. You can create players. You can rename things. Great job by the developer there, and exciting stuff with Hoopland.
Need to spend some more time with it myself, absolutely. Steven says, I'm still playing through College Hoops 2K8 for the 360, where I edited rosters to include the best NCAA players of all time for each team. Non-basketball, I'm almost at the end of Hogwarts Legacy for the PlayStation 5. And yeah, College Hoops 2K8 retains that dedicated fan base to this day, Derek, updating the rosters, making special projects like this with all-time teams, basically, the best NCAA players of all time. And that's what's drawn me to NCAA Basketball 09 on PlayStation 3. Obviously, there's a novelty to it because I didn't grow up with those games. It wasn't until I got a PlayStation 3 some years back that I was able to collect those games, seek them out and collect them. So that's a novelty in and of itself. But playing with those all-time teams, adding the real names to those rosters, and the classic teams as well. Again, NCAA Basketball 10 has better gameplay, feels better on the sticks than 09, or March Madness 08 for that matter. But the classic teams, I'm drawn to the classic content, Derek, the legends, even if I do have to add their names, even if they don't have real faces, just playing with those classic rosters, it keeps drawing me back to those games. So I totally get it.
Yeah, I love that aspect of NCAA Basketball 09. I uploaded a gameplay video at one point where my brother was using UCLA, Bill Walton, and absolutely torching me with him. And I was using North Carolina, Jordan. Obviously, the names aren't there in the version that I uploaded. I didn't have any mods installed. I didn't do any renaming or anything like that. But it's just the fact that they're there, and you can see what they were trying to do. And clearly it's Michael Jordan, and clearly it's Bill Walton, etc. That content will never get old for me.
Yeah, there's a reason there was a lawsuit, Derek. And finally, Ryan says, the original NBA Street. That one keeps me returning frequently. NBA 2K15 and NBA 2K26 are the main ones this year. The Eras mode, despite some inaccuracies due to missing player likenesses, it keeps me gripped. To play out what-if scenarios, relive the early years of my fandom, and once my son is old enough, show him who his namesake is. As for non-basketball games, MLB The Show, Pokemon Fire Red, and by the end of the month, 007 First Light. So looking forward to that new James Bond game, Derek. GoldenEye is always going to be the classic for me. Can't say that it hasn't aged in certain ways, but that and actually also Agent Under Fire for the PlayStation 2. A couple of very nostalgic Bond games for me there. Hopefully this one turns out well as well. But yeah, the original NBA Street, I know Volume 2 is the better game, or certainly I believe it is the better game. I think that is the consensus, Derek. But that first game, the first NBA Street, I think did such a great job of doing its own thing, taking some inspiration from NBA Jam, seeing why NBA Jam worked, taking the concepts that made it successful and putting its own spin on it, bringing in the streetball culture, adding that different gameplay with the focus on the streetball moves, the dribbling moves, obviously. Yeah, I think the first NBA Street holds up superbly.
Yeah, I'll always prefer Street Volume 2, but you can't go wrong with the original Street because, again, the gameplay bones are so similar, right? So how can you not enjoy it? It's like you going from NBA Live 18 to NBA Live 19. NBA Live 19 has enough of those 18 bones for you to still get some enjoyment out of it. As it relates to GoldenEye 007, I've said it before, that's the game that my brothers and I spent the most time on as an N64 game, playing split screen and having 3 controllers hooked up and trying to find each other, using the golden gun, etc. So yeah, GoldenEye 007 will always be a favorite of ours.
And what I love about the community's responses, Derek, is that, like us, they're enjoying a variety. Maybe they have that main game, 2K26. It's a game that I haven't been able to get into. You have. A lot of other people in the community have as well, which is great. That comes down to my extreme 2K fatigue and other factors. But obviously people are enjoying 2K26, but also the classics. And you see that in the top 10 every week as well. I think it's great that we have access to all of these games, and we're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree. I love the fact that so many people are sticking with some of the classics and they don't feel like they have to get the newest basketball game and they don't feel like they have to jump online and, pump money into these new games, that they can put on NBA Live 2004, that they can throw on NBA Live '09, they can throw on the original NBA 2K, NBA 2K6, NBA 2K13, etc. Just love the fact that people are utilizing the options that they have and finding ways to play these games.
Absolutely. Play what you want, enjoy what you play, and please keep sharing your experiences with us. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. Thank you for tuning in, and a reminder that you can catch us every week on the NLSC, our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Also, both we and the NLSC are on social media and would appreciate a follow. So, Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on the NLSC, D43, and on YouTube, D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, give a look to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for all things basketball gaming. So, thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone!